All right, so if you're studying Synge Street for your exams, you are in the right place. We're going to break down all the most important ideas, characters, and film tricks you need to know to absolutely ace your analysis. Let's dive right in.
Okay, first up, if you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, make it this: happy, sad. Seriously, this idea is the key that unlocks the entire film. The movie is telling us that real life isn't just one or the other, it's both, all mixed up together. And the best art, like the songs in this movie, gets that. You know, the joy of the band only feels so good because it's an escape from the pain of their real lives. The perfect word for it is bittersweet.
So that's the big idea, right? But how does the director actually show us this happy, sad world? Well, it all starts with where and when the story is set.
See, to really get why these characters are so desperate to dream and to escape, we first have to understand the world they're trying to escape from. We need to take a quick look at the reality of 1980s Ireland.
Let's paint a picture here. Ireland in the 1980s was a really tough place to be young. First off, there was a massive economic recession, which means there were hardly any jobs. For a lot of kids, it just felt like there was no future. On top of that, the church had huge influence, and the rules were incredibly strict. For example, Conor's parents couldn't get a divorce, even though their marriage was falling apart. So what was the solution for many young people? Leaving. Hopping on a ferry to London wasn't just an adventure. For many, it was a survival tactic.
So all of this, the frustration, the boredom, the lack of opportunity, it basically creates a pressure cooker. All that pressure builds and builds, and it forces characters like Conor to find some kind of release, some kind of escape. And for them, that escape is music. It's not just a hobby, you guys, it's their lifeline.
Okay, so now let's look at the people living inside this pressure cooker. The story really boils down to three key roles: the visionary, who has the dream, the mentor, who guides him, and the muse, who inspires it all.
So Conor's journey is huge. You can break it down into three simple steps. He starts out as a victim, right? He's bullied at his tough new school and he feels totally powerless at home, listening to his parents fight. Then, to impress Raphina, he becomes a creator. He forms the band and, in the process, he actually starts to find his own voice. And by the end of the film, he's a true visionary, a confident leader who takes charge and creates his own future.
Now, Raphina is the muse. She's the inspiration for Conor's music. When we first meet her, she seems so cool, so worldly and sophisticated. But the film shows us that this is kind of an act. Her makeup is like a mask, hiding the fact that she's vulnerable and hurting inside too. She's dreaming of escape just as much as Conor is.
And then there's Brendan, Conor's big brother. Now, Conor might be the hero of the story, but you could easily argue that Brendan is its heart. He's the mentor. He teaches Conor everything he knows about music and life. He's like this philosopher king, just dropping wisdom from his bedroom.
And this quote, wow, it just tells you everything about Brendan's own sad story. When he screams this, we feel all his frustration. He's from that generation that got stuck. He had the dreams, he had the talent, but he just never got his chance. So instead, he poured all that energy into Conor, clearing the path so his little brother could take off. It's a moment that's full of anger, but underneath it all, it's also full of so much love. Okay, let's switch gears and dive into the main themes. If you're writing an essay, these are the big ideas you'll want to be talking about.
The first huge theme is rebellion. I mean, this is a classic story of young people fighting back against the strict rules of adults who just don't get it. In Synge Street, the authority figures are the teachers at the school, especially Brother Baxter, and the whole culture of the church.
And the film gives us so many clear examples of this rebellion. When Conor wears makeup, it's not just about fashion, it's a statement. He's refusing to be just another face in the crowd. The song Brown Shoes is a direct, full-on attack against Brother Baxter. And really, the very act of starting a band is an act of rebellion. They're creating their own world with their own rules.
The next big themes are escapism and brotherhood, and you really can't separate them in this film. They're totally connected. The movie shows us how art, music in this case, is a way to escape from a tough reality and how the bond of family can give you the strength to actually do it. Look at how these two ideas work together. On one side, music is the escape. Conor writes songs to block out his parents fighting. The music videos literally create little fantasy worlds that are a million miles away from gloomy Dublin. But this escape is only possible because of brotherhood. Brendan gives Conor the albums that shape his sound, and more importantly, he gives him the courage to keep going. Brendan's support is what makes Conor's escape possible.
All right, now for the part that will really help you get those top marks. Let's look at the filmmaker's toolbox and decode some of the director's tricks. This is where you explain not just what happens, but how the director uses film language to make us feel a certain way.
So let's take that intense scene where Brother Baxter confronts Conor about his shoes. Notice the camera angles. The camera looks up at Brother Baxter. That's a low-angle shot, and it's designed to make him look powerful and intimidating. Then, it cuts to a shot looking down on Conor, a high-angle shot, which makes him look small and totally weak. The sound does the exact same thing. Baxter's voice is loud and it echoes, while Conor is completely silent. It's a perfect example of showing power dynamics visually.
And you have to talk about the drive it like you stole it sequence. This is just a masterclass. The fantasy part is beautiful, right? The colors are warm and golden. The camera moves smoothly like an old movie musical. Everything feels perfect and confident. And then, bam! A sudden, jarring cut right back to the reality of the school gym. The colors instantly become cold and blue, the lighting is flat, and we feel that gut punch of disappointment with Conor when he sees Raphina isn't there. It's brilliant.
It's also super important to talk about symbols. These are objects in the film that stand for something much bigger. The brown shoes Brother Baxter forces Conor to wear, they're not just shoes. They represent conformity, being forced to give up who you are. The makeup, that represents the courage to be different, to stand out. And that big fairy you keep seeing in the background, that's the ultimate symbol of hope and escape.
And here are a few other clever tricks to keep an eye out for. The director often shoots Conor through doorways and windows. This is called a frame within a frame, and it's a visual way of showing us how trapped he feels. Also, notice how often Conor looks at himself in mirrors as he's trying on new looks. He's literally searching for his own identity. And always remember, the lyrics of the songs often work as dialogue. They say all the things Conor is too shy or scared to say out loud.
Okay, we've looked at the world, the people, the big ideas, and the director's tricks. So what does it all add up to? Let's bring it all together by looking at that final scene and the film's ultimate message. That final image of the film is just so powerful. You've got two boats. There's the big, stable ferry. That represents the normal, safe way to leave Ireland. It's the established path. But Conor and Raphina are in their own tiny little boat. That represents taking a risk, being courageous, and choosing your own path. The director even uses a shaky, handheld camera, which makes us feel like we're right there in that dangerous boat with them.
And notice how the director chose to show a stormy sea, not a calm one. This brings us right back to that happy, sad idea from the very beginning. The ending is happy because they're escaping, they're together, but it's also sad because their future is completely uncertain and pretty dangerous. It's not going to be easy, but, and this is the most important part, for the first time, it's a future that they are choosing for themselves.
In the end, Brendan tells Conor that rock and roll is a risk. You risk being ridiculed. The whole movie is about taking that risk, the risk to start a band, to ask a girl out, to leave your home and chase a wild dream. So the final question the film leaves us with is a personal one. What risk are you willing to take to chase your own dream?